sorry, was that a bomb out there?
C7 and C5, we just plummeted
The house.
on the way
There's an
down.
explosion near my house.
Would you get me going back with Swan down here? I don't know what we're going to have when we're done with this. Chemical building, we still have explosions rocking the area.
CAI, an ink manufacturer, and Arnell, which made paints, lacquers, and coatings, were located on an industrial site where flammable solvents had been stored and used for decades. Over the years, a quiet mixed-use neighborhood called Danversport grew up next door to the site. In and around the CAI Arnell plant, both companies stored thousands of pounds of flammable liquids, nitrocellulose, resins, and pigments. The two companies carried out their operations side by side. CAI made the chemical base for inks in large unsealed tanks, adding dry materials to the solvents that were then mixed by a large agitator blade and heated by steam. To prevent the accumulation of dangerous flammable vapor during operating hours, the production areas were ventilated with fresh air, which circulated from a ceiling duct out of the building through 4 exhaust fans near the floor. CAI employees told the CSB that operators routinely turned off the ventilation system at night to reduce heat loss and in response to concerns of neighbors who had complained about the fan noise late at night. About 1 p.m. on November 21, 2006, CAI employees began mixing a 2,000-gallon ink batch in tank number 3. About 3 p.m., the production manager opened the steam valve to start heating the mixture. He planned to return and shut off the valve when the mixture reached between 90 and 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The production manager then left the platform to help unload a truck of raw materials and reload it with the day's ink production. He told investigators that before he left for the day, he returned to the platform and noted the temperature was about 90 degrees. He told the CSB he believed he then closed the steam valve. The CSB concluded, however, that in the absence of a checklist or system alarms, he most likely forgot to do this. The mixer was routinely left on overnight to prevent undissolved resin from settling in the tank. The Arnell employees had gone home earlier. Shortly before 6 p.m., the last CAI employee in the building turned off the dust collector fans, the fresh air supply, and all the exhaust fans, and left. In the now unattended building, 12,000 pounds of flammable solvent in mixing tank number 3 continued to be heated for the next 8 hours and 45 minutes. CSB testing and calculations determined that continued heating of the tank contents over a long period would cause the flammable liquid to boil and release hundreds of pounds of highly flammable vapor, including heptane and propyl alcohols, through the unsealed tank cover into the unventilated building. The building heating fans remained on, likely helping to distribute the vapor throughout the production area. Finally, at 2:46 a.m., the vapor reached an undetermined ignition source, likely an automatic heater switch or other electrical source, and exploded. The explosion created a blast wave that swept across Danversport. Firefighters at the station a mile away heard the blast and described seeing a huge ball of fire over Danversport.
We got a plume of smoke and some light in the sky over in that area down the port.
One of the first homes the blast wave hit belonged to David Marcoux at number 3 Bates Street, adjacent to the plant site. He was sound asleep when the blast tore out his bedroom balcony sliding glass doors, sending shards of glass flying across the room, some of it hitting him on the back of the head.
I just remember being on my feet, looking around and just being like, wow, it's really windy in this room. And then all I could see was fire in front of me. And, it was so hot and intense that I could feel it right on my face. I was feeling the heat.
Mr. Marcoux escaped with a friend who was renting a room, rescued a neighbor, and as emergency responders arrived, was taken to a hospital for treatment of cuts and bruises. Photos he took later showed his bedroom with the door frame impaled in his ceiling. The blast made his home uninhabitable and had to be demolished and rebuilt.
Command fire alarm. This appears to be the chemical building. We still have explosions, rock in the area, heavy volume of fire.
Down the block at the end of Bates Street, Susan Tropiano and her husband John Lovett feared for the worst after the blast hit their home.
My first thought that it had to have been a huge jet that had landed in the boatyard or something. And then we ran downstairs to get our son to make sure he was alive. He thought we weren't alive, so it was a little bit of a reunion there, knowing we were all alive.
The family made it out of the house and joined the evacuation.
There was a smell, very strong, sweet smell in the air. And the streets were in chaos. There was no street lights, no lights on in anybody's houses. And there were people running down the street in their underwear and their pajamas and carrying animals. And there was police officers and fire officers in the neighborhood. It was just chaos.
Down here we have multiple injuries. We probably have 4 or 5 houses that have had the back part of their building blown off. And buildings across the street that have had all their windows blown out.
Home after home was hit. Entire windows and doors with their frames were blown into houses. Ceilings collapsed on sleeping occupants. Appliances and cabinets were thrown about. Brick chimneys as far as 500 feet from the facility were heavily damaged.
We still get some victims in these houses. We're going house to house. We're going to need some help down here. We got some elderly that can't get up the street.
The Danvers Fire Department launched a comprehensive search and rescue operation. Officials ordered an evacuation of about 300 residents and 10 businesses. 800 feet south of the blast site, windows and doors were blown out of the New England Home for the Deaf, forcing an evacuation of 60 assisted living residents. Responders and residents helped rescue people from their homes and the nearby bakery, which was extensively damaged. The blast wave shattered windows and buckled doors and panels on vehicles as far as 300 feet away. The blast damaged boats in the marina. 46 Riverside Street was also in the path of the wave.
So we thought, when I got thrown out of bed myself, I thought initially it might have been an explosion inside the house, a gas explosion. That's what it felt like. That's what it sounded like. It was deafening. At the same time, you realize, well, it can't be because I'm still here, right?
Ed and Diane Sanborn remember their biggest concern was for their children.
So I just ran and banged on my older kids' doors and told them to get out of the house, and went after my little one who had some stuff on him, a little shelf thing on him, and he was sort of holding on to his headboard and didn't want to come. So I was fighting with him to get him out of bed, and we all ran downstairs, and Ed was at the front door with my daughter, and the whole front door frame had blown in.
Though the Sanborns' time away was shorter, many of the 77 families forced to relocate to temporary housing were away for long periods of time while their houses were repaired. 16 homes were damaged beyond repair. One of them belonged to Mark and Janet Lettish at number 12 Riverside. The front of their house took the brunt of the wave.
There was an explosion, our windows blew in, and we're looking at a column of fire. And by that time, Janet had, woken up, and we just said, I remember saying, oh my God, what the hell is going on?
The force of the explosion blasted the entire window and frame into the bedroom, where the glass shattered as the ceiling collapsed. Because of the cold weather, the Lettishes, like many residents, slept with heavy bed covers, which shielded them from flying debris.
The bedroom windows came flying in and landed on us, but we were underneath a comforter. It was like a science fiction movie. Like as that was flying across, then it shattered into pieces, and then it landed on us. So there were these shards of glass everywhere.
The Lettishes' house had to be torn down, but not before the couple walked with a video camera through their home of 25 years, recording the damage and strewn debris, including the kitchen clock, stopped at 2:46 a.m.